What's going on, YouTube? It's me. I'm back again, and today we're taking a look once again at Video Games Monthly. It is that time of the month, November. This box is going to be a little bit different. I do have PS1 and Dreamcast games as well as some N64 games. I asked for that this month, and I'm going to see what they give me. For those of you who don't know, Video Games Monthly is a monthly subscription box where they'll send video games straight to your door. Just like last time, we're going to unbox these. We're going to get my reaction to getting the game, and then we're going to take a look at the gameplay footage in a short mini review section. As always, leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. I'm excited to see what we got this month. Let's dive into this box and start the show. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this box. I ain't gonna waste no more time talking. Let's get into it. Here we go. First title. Yes. A Dreamcast game. Quake 3 Arena. And it looks like it's sealed. It might be a sealed copy of Quake 3 Arena, which is awesome. I don't know a whole lot about this game, but I know that the Quake series came out on a whole bunch of different consoles. And I know it's like a first-person shooter. This game is supposedly really, really good. So we're going to dive into the review of it. Let's check it out. The often forgotten Sega Dreamcast brings back memories of playing it for the first time at my cousin's house in Florida. People wrote this system off, and heck, I did too, but for the time, Sega was way ahead of the game when it came to the Dreamcast. And dare I say it? Yes, I believe it was far superior to Sony's PlayStation 2. What nerve do I have to say ever such terrible things? After all, I too was a PlayStation 2 owner, running around the school bashing the kids who spent their money on the Sega Dreamcast. And little did I know the power that this console held. The footage I captured for Quake 3 is captured using AV cables, but when I play my games on it for my amusement, I use the VGA cables. If you ever get a chance to experience the Dreamcast on VGA, it'll blow your mind. I mean, how could a console that was released before the PlayStation 2 look so good? You have no idea. Or maybe you do. Another reason I'm boasting about the Dreamcast is the fact that it came with a built-in network adapter fresh out of the gate. This was the first console to allow for online play. And it wasn't until years later that the PlayStation 2 would offer the attachment to allow for online play. There's many more reasons why I think this console outshines the competition of that era in gaming history, but that, my friends, is a video for another day. We're here to talk about Quake 3. And that's what I'm going to do.
Welcome to Quake 3 Arena.
Developed by id Software and released for the Dreamcast, Quake 3 Arena is a first-person shooter. The game is a departure from its predecessors as it focuses its gameplay on multiplayer modes rather than a single-player story. The single-player mode is played against bots who are out to demolish your hopes and dreams of ever being successful in the arena. The enemy players are computer-controlled players, otherwise known as bots. The game's story is very brief. The greatest warriors of all time are captured and sent to fight for the amusement of a race called the Vadrigar in the arena Eternal. The introduction video depicts your character Sarge making his last stand, fighting off hordes of enemies. Sarge is on his last limb, and in a last-ditch effort, he charges at his enemies before being warped out and put into the arena Eternal. In Quake 3, the player will progress through multiple tiers of maps and enemies. As you expect, the game gets harder as your player climbs the rank to face new enemies. One thing I really like is the character design in this game. There are all sorts of aliens and superhumans that you'll face. The weapons are balanced by role, and each weapon has its own advantage in certain situations. Where the game shines is the multiplayer modes. Keep in mind, this game was designed to be an online first-person shooter. There's a couple different game modes when it comes to multiplayer. Team Deathmatch consists of 2 4-player teams competing for the highest combined score. Tournament mode is a 1v1 play mode, normally ending after a set time limit, and Capture the Flag requires the player to recover enemy flags while maintaining their own. Pretty simple and straightforward. I found that the controls in this game can take a bit of time of getting used to, and I recommend trying out the game's presets to find out which control suits you the best. The game does support the Dreamcast keyboard and mouse, and I've heard that this is the best way to play the game. The game still holds up today. In fact, there's a dedicated community that still plays Quake 3 tournaments. Overall, Quake 3 Arena is a great multiplayer game to bust out when you and your friends are settling a debate, and if it's in your budget, you should definitely pick it up. Alright guys, let's jump into the second game here. Bubble Wrap. Video Games Monthly card. What else we got? Always got to update your library. Make sure you do so, otherwise you'll get doubles like I did last month. N64 game. Crus'n World. Crus'n. This is a arcade port, and Crus'n, I can remember playing it in the arcades a lot. Is a good little racing game, kind of similar to the realms of Outrun, more of a race style, but that's a great one to add to the collection. I'm excited for it, and let's watch the review of Crus'n World.
Let's see what I did on my summer vacation. Well, excuse me, pardon me. Well, I polished all of my sister's rusty silverware. Excuse me, pardon. I rode my bike to St. Mary's Carnival. Well, that was before it got stolen. I didn't like that very much. Oh, and let's see. I helped my grandmother plant her yellow chrysanthemums. I helped her plant her yellow chrysanthemums, and well, also known as Chrysanthemum ypsilanthus. She has a lovely garden.
Let's see, where was I? Germany, France, Italy, Egypt. The pyramids were so big, don't you think, girl? Moscow, Japan. Oh yes, the Great Wall of China. When the sun was shining so beautifully in your hair.
Ooh la la, Les Willy?
Why yes, that was the day I popped a wheelie.
Crus'n World is the 1996 arcade sequel to Crus'n USA. If you don't recall this game, maybe the game's music will remind you.
Cruising the world. Yeah, yeah. You got the speed, you got the power to cruise the world.
Oh yeah, I can still hear that tune playing over and over again in my head. I can remember the roller rink my family and I used to go to, the Chess Arena, in Cheswick, Pennsylvania, had this arcade machine for many years. The roller rink? Yes, the roller rink. If you're a younger viewer, a roller rink is a place where we go to skate and socialize back before socializing meant spending your day texting someone or spending your time on Instagram. After all, this was the 90s, so people actually left their houses to meet and talk with people. I mean, I practically grew up at this roller rink. It's the first place that I learned how to play hockey. I know it sounds dull and boring now, but believe me, those were some of the best moments growing up. But I'm getting off topic. Back to Crus'n World. This arcade machine was practically everywhere, and I recall putting my fair share of quarters into it back in the day. It was a good little racer for its time, and it doesn't really do anything substantially different. It was easy to learn and easy to play. A Next Generation critic even commented on it saying, like Crus'n USA, Crus'n World has an unsurpassed sense of arcade-style driving. You can sit down, drive fast, knock cars off the road, kill animals in a funny kind of roadkill way, and get into chaotic multi-car collisions. With the success of the arcade, it was time to port this classic to the Nintendo 64. The game was released in 1998, and it's a scaled-down version as most arcade ports of this time were. You pick your car, you pick your transmission type, and you start the race. The game controls well enough to play through and be successful. The gameplay isn't intended to be realistic. For example, you can perform tricks with your vehicle like 360s and backflips. Sometimes the visuals will jump around and skip a few frames, like for example when you get into a wreck. There's tons of courses in this game to play through, like Egypt, Hawaii, and Russia to name a few. One of the biggest differences in the N64 port is the removal of the bloody roadkill that was often comical in the arcade. In this version, the animals are still there, but they move so swiftly across the screen where you can't hit them, you just pass through them. The N64 version also offers a course on the moon, and the ability to alter the car's appearance with paintworks. Other than that, the game does a pretty good job of keeping the arcade racing intact. If you enjoy arcade racing games, then you should definitely take a look into Crus'n World. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the footage of Crus'n World. Let's check out what we got next. Another N64 game, South Park Rally. South Park Rally, I'm pretty sure, is a racing game in kind of the same vein as Mario Kart, but it was made by Acclaim, and I don't know a whole lot about this game, but that's what the review's for. Let's check out South Park Rally. During the late 1990s, South Park spread like wildfire across the US. It was a grittier version of TV that aired on Comedy Central and still does to this day. As you would expect, with a huge franchise like South Park, they had to cash in on the video game market. Surprisingly, some of the games made it onto the N64 console, which seemed to be the more family-friendly console during that era. Does this game still hold up today, or is it nothing more than an early 2000s cash grab product? Let's take a look. Released on March 1st in the year 2000, South Park Rally is a kart-style racer for the N64. As you would expect, the game is based off the Comedy Central series. The game includes many of the characters, vehicles, locations, and items from the show. The show's creators, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, had little to do with the development of the game. I think a lot of that is shown in the end product. Parker and Stone have even publicly criticized Acclaim and the quality of the games that they released with the South Park name on it. Imagine that, the creators of South Park, the guys who criticize everything and anything, didn't enjoy this one. I don't think they're wrong though. South Park Rally had a lot of potential as a game, but seems to fall short in that regard. I mean, look at the title screen. It looks like someone threw it together as a slide in a PowerPoint presentation. The mayor of South Park decides to stage a rally series that will take place through the heart of the town. There's 14 different races to play through, and each of them present their own challenge. Being a kart racer, you would think that you would just race other opponents and see who ends up coming in first, but that's not the case. The track is an open world, so you might have to drive to certain checkpoints, or you might have to gather a trophy and complete each checkpoint. This to me is where the game goes south. The challenges are hard to complete and almost impossible to get good enough at to win consistently. The computer will almost always find a way to beat you or get the right power up at the right time to stop you from making any progress in this game. Speaking of the power-ups, this game has some terrible ones that I feel are useless in the game. The game still has the South Park charm, with plenty of the one-liners coming straight from the show. In conclusion, South Park Rally seems like its heart is in the right place, but it's not fun at all. It's a cash grab product, and if I were you, I'd stay away from it, especially with how steep the price is. It's safe to say that unfortunately, if you see South Park Rally out and about, you should definitely pass up on it.
We didn't watch it, we didn't hear it, and we didn't talk about it.
So how do we do that?
We bury our heads in sand.
Alright, moving right along here. We're already up to our 3 games, so I think I haven't seen a 1-up card, so I will be getting 4 games in this box. Let's see if I can pick out the item that kind of comes with it. And it is a Video Games Monthly pin. Pretty cool. Pin that on the shirt right now, on the Cuphead shirt. Oh yeah, got my Video Games Monthly pin. So what else we got here? Last game. Once again, it feels sealed. Ooh. Chrono Cross. An excellent RPG. This is actually either the sequel or prequel. I don't know a whole lot about the Chrono Trigger series, but I know this is in the same vein of that. Once again, I don't know if they just put it right in the shrink wrap or if it's an actual sealed copy. It looks like this one's just put in the shrink wrap, but it does look like the Quake is the actual shrink wrap that would normally come with the game. Either way, let's check out the review of Chrono Cross on the PlayStation 1. You can't mention Chrono Cross without mentioning the company behind the development of the game and where they are today. This game was developed by Squaresoft, the creators of franchises such as the beloved Final Fantasy series of video games. You may know this company today as a result of a merger between Square and another company called Enix, creating Square Enix. Now, in order to understand more about these two heavyweight developers, we need to take a look at how they ended up merging in the first place. Let's go back to the very beginning and take a look at how two juggernaut companies became one of the most infamous RPG developers of all time. The story starts with Enix, a company founded in 1975 by entrepreneur Yoshiro Fukushima. Enix focused their resources on publishing video games for various home consoles. Most notably, Enix is known for publishing the Dragon Quest series of games. They went on to dominate the early RPG market with their hit title Dragon Quest, eventually selling 1.5 million copies in Japan alone. On the other hand, Square was a third-party developer established in 1983 by Masafumi Miyamoto. Miyamoto started his career developing computer games in the software division of his father's electrical power conglomerate, Denyu Shia. At the time, game development was mainly conducted by one programmer. Miyamoto found it would be more efficient to have graphic designers, programmers, and professional story writers all working together to create games. Unlike its competitor Enix, Square would focus on creating their games in-house and developing all of its games from the ground up. You can see the quality of the results in almost all of their video games. The company's most famous asset is the Final Fantasy series of video games. The two companies would churn out multiple games during the 8 and 16-bit era, creating a bit of a rivalry amongst themselves. They were both best known for great RPGs with stories and characters most people could relate to. During the dawn of a new century, Square would find itself in a financial bind after a financial failure, releasing its first movie, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. This took a huge toll on the company, and after facing its second year of financial loss, Square approached Sony for a capital injection, and Sony bought 18.6% of a stake in Square's assets. Following the success of Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts, Square's finances stabilized. In 2002, it was announced that Square and Enix had plans to merge, and it would proceed. Some of Square's shareholders expressed their concerns about the merger of the two companies, most notably Square's original founder, Miyamoto, who found himself owning a significantly smaller percentage of the share in the newly formed company. Another criticism came from Takashi Oya, who expressed doubts about the benefits of such a merger, saying, "Enix outsources game developments and has few in-house creators, while Square does everything by itself. The combination of the two provides no negative factors, but would bring little in the way of the operational synergies." The merger was set for April of 2003, and the two companies became one, donning the infamous name of Square Enix. With the merger completed, it was time to release video games on a number of platforms. Chrono Cross is a spiritual sequel to Chrono Trigger and was originally released in 1999. The story of Chrono Cross focuses on a teenage boy named Surge and a theme of parallel worlds. Faced with an alternate reality in which he died as a child, Surge sets out to discover the truth of the two worlds. Many other characters assist him in his travels around the tropical archipelago known as El Nido. Struggling to uncover his past and find the mysterious frozen flame, Surge is chiefly challenged by Lynx, a shadowy antagonist working to apprehend him. Chrono Cross features the standard turn-based role-playing video game gameplay. Navigation between areas is conducted via an overworld map depicting the landscape from a scaled-down overhead view. Around the island world are villages, outdoor areas, and dungeons through which the player moves through in 3 dimensions. I really like the art style in this game, and you can tell there was a lot of time put into the 3D world that you encounter. Enemies in this game are openly visible as you travel around the maps or lie in wait to ambush the party. Touching the enemy monster switches perspectives to the battle screen, in which players can physically attack, use elements, defend, or run away from the enemy. As mentioned, battles are turn-based, allowing the player infinite time to select an action from the available menu. For both the playable characters and the computer-controlled enemies, each attack reduces the number of hit points, a numerically based life bar, which can be restored through some elements. When a playable character loses all hit points, he or she faints. If all the player's characters fall in battle, the game ends and must be restored from a previously saved chapter. The game still holds up well enough today. There's so much content here included in one package, and I honestly haven't even scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. You get 2 discs worth of content with hundreds of hours of gameplay. The game has an intriguing story arc and a fun battle system. The cutscenes play out beautifully for a late PS1 title. If you enjoy RPGs with a turn-based battle system, I highly recommend Chrono Cross for the PS1.
So that was a pretty good month from Video Games Monthly. Definitely far better than last month. I'm finding that they're just going to kind of give you common titles, and if you go for a console that you don't have a lot of games for, it's going to help you fill in those gaps and kind of give you more and more. For me, my Sega Genesis collection is kind of my pride and joy, and I don't really like to collect loose cartridges for it, so whenever I go hunting for Sega Genesis games, I'm always looking for a complete inbox with the manual and whatnot. So this month was pretty good to fill out my PlayStation collection, keep going on my N64 collection, and I got to add a Sega Dreamcast game, which is always great. So not a bad month at all from Video Games Monthly, much better than last month. I'm excited to be adding these games to my collection. Once again, I want to thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I appreciate all the feedback and everything that you have all given me. Have a nice day.